I put every single North American 3DS release on my Japanese 2DS, and here's how. I've always loved the DS. It has been an integral part of my gaming exposure growing up, and I recently dipped my toes back into the 3DS once I discovered homebrewing. There was one handheld I missed, however. That was the 2DS. I remember when it first came out, my immediate thought was, that's dumb. But after a few long gaming sessions with my homebrew new 3DS, I considered buying a 2DS in 2022. That is, because of the larger grip. But why buy a Japanese version of a game console? Because it's cool? And this one had a translucent plastic shell, and I'm one big sucker for exclusive variants of products. I got this one off of a seller on eBay for probably too much, but it arrived promptly and worked fine right out of the box, so I'd say it was worth it. Handling this for the first time only solidified my reason for getting it. I could immediately see the appeal for me, and at the same time, why this handheld is so divided in the gaming community. I mean, look at it, it's ridiculous. And this is when I started to get ideas. What could be more ridiculous than owning a console like the 2DS? Probably shoving every single game ever made for the system into a tiny SD card. I knew this task was going to be a large undertaking, but I had no clue what I was going into. I'd already just homebrewed my new 3DS XL, so how hard could it be to do it again?
Hey, Editor Julian here. I need to go on record saying that I do not in any way condone the illegal download of any media and or the act of pirating. So for the purposes of this video, I want to make it clear that all the files I have acquired are backups of personally owned game cartridges. Back to the video.
My plan was simple. Homebrew the 2DS, download backups for every single game, and slap all those games onto an SD, and boom. Yeah, no. I started with a large collection that claimed to be every single North American 3DS release, and I promptly downloaded the 172 backups. 16 hours later, I decided that now was a good time to cross-reference a verified list. Come to find out, there are actually a little over 400 North American releases. Fuck! So, now I had 172 random backups that I had to check off my now new master list. No big deal. I will just upload what I have and begin the grueling process of downloading the list of 400 individually. But wait, homebrew backups are marked by the .cia file type. What I had were 172 .3ds files. So now I was off to find a way to convert all of these .3ds backups into CIA so that the homebrew software would recognize them. An initial tutorial showed me a way to do this directly on the 2DS. However, I soon found that this process would be impossibly long on the hardware compared to my PC and also had a chance of ruining my SD. Not as if I corrupted the SD twice while homebrewing the 2DS. Yeah, I forgot to mention that at one point I decided to delete a single file from the SD because it didn't match the tutorial I watched, although the file was actually crucial to the homebrewing process. Then I ripped the SD card out of the computer in a panic, only to find that I had effectively ruined the entire thing. Anyways, onto the converting. I figured converting files would be easy since I hadn't had any issues in the past with that kind of thing. Typically, converting files goes something like googling .poop to .pp converter or something like that, then you download some .exe converter from a sketchy website with a bunch of ads, and then bingo, you have a solution. .3ds to .cia conversion is not that easy. I started my search on dusty and long-forgotten forums in search for a converter that seemed legit. I remember at one point in this process, I had at least 5 different converters downloaded that were all far too complicated to get working. See, the thing is, from my understanding, the software that converts the files must act in a way similar to what the 2DS was doing when it was slowly converting each file individually on its original hardware. I only assume this because I could not find a converter that simply worked out of the box. There were several that claimed to do so, but each required files from the DS, which in all honesty was where I stopped reading in every forum because I was confident there was a better way. There was not. I finally went through every README file and found one converter that only required a .ben file to work successfully. I have this specific tool linked in the description along with every single other useful tool that I used in this project. So after 4 hours of sifting through to find a converter that worked, I was back staring at the screen once more, hoping that the loading bar would go faster. I decided, for the sake of time, to also begin the grueling process of going through my list one by one and downloading the remaining backups. This turned the project from a 3-day event to a week, since my Chrome and my Wi-Fi connection threw a fit, downloading more than 3 items at a time. I also downloaded the CIA backups in batches onto the 2DS, which I am so glad I did so because this took just as long as the initial downloads. This process could have taken 2 weeks had I not done this. And there we go, every single North American 3DS release on one page. Wait, what? Yeah, so the 3DS software caps out at around 300 tiles, meaning you cannot fit every single North American release, no matter how infinitely you expand the SD card. Or can you? I found out about the 300 tile cap one day while doing some extra research on the project, which was devastating to hear. However, it turns out that there is an abandoned project from 2018 by a familiar face, Rocket Robs. If you don't know Rocket Robs, he is one of the many devs that helped bring together the homebrew scene on the DS, 2DS, 3DS, really all the handheld platforms. The abandoned project is called 3DS Bank, which unlocks the limit of tiles on the 3DS software through a loophole. It creates multiple 3DS home menus split among custom folders. I've yet to test the limitations of this tool, but as long as you have a big enough SD card, you can store the entire available library that can be emulated on the DS and more. I won't go into depth on 3DS Bank, but I'll create a tutorial if you all would like. Nevertheless, this application allows me to store a maximum of 300 tiles on an infinite number of created folders, which in this case is 2. One for the initial 300 and then an overflow for the rest. It is quite annoying accessing the other folders as load times are impossibly long. This could be due to the fact that I'm attempting to access over 400 backups, and the 3DS is trying its best not to implode. But still. Yes, we still are loading in. Oh, also, side note. Every now and then, the 2DS does actually implode with this error message. I don't know what it means, and I don't know how to fix it, and honestly, I have not attempted to read it. I just let it power down and restart, and it seems to work fine. So here we are, my Japanese 2DS with every single North American 3DS release shoved in it. This is so ridiculous, but I kinda love it. Would I do this again? Maybe. I almost went over my download limit on my internet, and it slowed my entire apartment's Wi-Fi connection for every other device. It also took a ton of my time sitting at the computer and verifying all of the files. In the end, there were still a small handful of games I could not get the backups for because they were either too obscure or there were not any safe options to acquire them. I also regret doing this on a language lock device. I made sure that every file was a USA region version because I knew that there would be no option to change the language. Despite this, many games still opted to run in the system's native Japanese language setting, which was super weird and inconsistent. For example, all of the Pokemon USA backups ran in Japanese, yet half of the Mario games ran in English and the other half in Japanese. So I'm not sure why this occurs. I found on a forum that you can alter the native language on the device by changing the sysnand, which is a different video in itself, and I was too far in the process before I realized this to start from the beginning. So should you do this? Probably not. I say this because I don't really see a practical use in doing this to your system other than making a dumb YouTube video or showing it to your friends. Realistically, you won't consistently play half of the games on the system, plus the slow load times and glitches outweigh having so many games available. Nevertheless, it was very fun pushing the system further than I had seen it go, and I'm eager to see what else this odd handheld can do. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.